Hello, Mr. Steve. It's been a while, right?
It has been. How are you, Manny?
I am fine. Thank you, sir. Wonderfully blessed as always. But let's talk about your connection to the Valley or your past connection to the Valley. Tell our
Yes.
viewers about that.
So I was the owner of Cinemas Palme D'Or, along with Brian Cranston and some other partners, for about 13 years, and we closed those theaters, I think, in 2016. But still have lots of friends out there. My mom lives out there along with her boyfriend, so I am out in the valley all the time.
Oh, and what are you doing now? How are you keeping busy?
Well, I'm still doing my radio show on 710 ESPN in Los Angeles every day from 1 to 4. Then I've got a brand new Culture Pop podcast where I do a lot of the kind of stuff you do on your show. Talk to the people that make the movies, actors, directors. It's called the Culture Pop Podcast, and it's available iTunes, Spotify.
Perfect. Now, you're Steve, the sports guy, right? But through the years, I've always loved talking Oscars with you. So, what do you think of the Oscar nominations? First, the good news. What do you love about it?
I love a couple of things. First of all, I love that both of the actors, Daniel Kaluuya and Keith Stanfield, were nominated for Best Supporting Actor because Judas and the Black Messiah was unbelievable. I love that my favorite performance of the year, which was Vanessa Kirby in Pieces of a Woman, got nominated. And I also love that Paul Raci, who is a supporting player in Sound of Metal, who is just amazing. I love Sound of Metal. I love that Paul Raci got that nomination. So those are just a few of the things that jump out at me.
You're absolutely right. Paul Raci, I have been a team Paul Raci since the beginning, since I interviewed him back in November. I discovered that, he came from a family of deaf people.
Yep.
And by the way, they like calling it deaf. Apparently, not the politically correct one. And also, he came from he fronts an Iron Maiden cover band. I mean, so apropos, right?
Yeah, so such an eclectic background he has. And by the way, the cover Iron Maiden band is interesting because Riz Ahmed's character plays in a metal band when he actually loses his hearing. So yeah, really apropos. And Paul is a really interesting guy. I talked to Darius Martyr, the director of the film, and he said, he was like the godsend finding him for Sound of Metal.
I do love that Judas and the Black Messiah came in. I mean, you know what? Warner Brothers, the studio does their campaigning all the time, just like this. Remember when Million Dollar Baby came out of nowhere? They, as a voting member of the Critics' Choice, they sent it to us like late in December, late in the award season. When everyone has been sending you FYC for your consideration stuff, like by October, November, and just the same thing like with this one, the Judas and the Black Messiah. This didn't get into our radar till about December as well, and I'm loving that studio. The Academy is giving it love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really powerful movie. The other movie that I really love this year is The Father, which is Florian Zeller is the director and the writer. That got nominated for Best Picture. It's an incredible story about a man who's sort of descending into dementia, and Anthony Hopkins is amazing. And Olivia Colman is amazing. She's amazing in everything. But that's another of my favorite movies this year that did really well in the Oscar nominations.
And again, that's also The Father didn't really come in right in the beginning of the award season. It came in also like around December, late part of November. So that's great. What about the snubs and surprises for you?
I was surprised that Judas and the Black Messiah did get on people's radars in time, both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. I was surprised that there was no Best Picture nomination for News of the World, the Paul Greengrass movie. The biggest surprise actually was not a snub, but it was the Danish film that was nominated for not just Best Foreign Language Film, but for Best Director. I had not seen it. I had not heard of it. I expected that to be Regina King, One Night in Miami, for Best Director. I guess that would qualify as a snub, but the small Danish film, and the name of the director eludes me right now, but the fact that he snuck into that category was pretty amazing.
Talk about Regina King. What do you think of One Night in Miami?
I loved One Night in Miami. I thought it was incredible. This fictional night, this special conversation that these guys have. And I thought Regina King, her directorial debut was just incredible. I especially loved Leslie Odom Jr., who got nominated for Best Supporting Actor as Sam Cooke. It took me a while to even figure out until he started singing that, oh, yeah, that's Leslie Odom Jr. He was so convincing as Sam Cooke, and it's such a great performance. And I really thought Regina King should have been nominated for Best Director for One Night in Miami.
But I do love, though, that for the first time, two female directors are nominated together, and one of them is a woman of color, Chloe Zhao. What do you think of that?
I love Nomadland. I find that to be just the most haunting movie. The fact that that Chloe Zhao used actual nomads in that movie to talk with Frances McDormand as the actress gave it an unbelievable sense of authenticity. So I love it. I loved looking at it. I think it's beautifully shot. Frances McDormand is always Frances McDormand. And yeah, I think Chloe Zhao will win Best Director for Nomadland.
What about, I think, the two biggest snubs are The Five Bloods and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Both were given some love in some acting categories, like Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but neither of them received a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, The Five Bloods is a great movie. I was surprised on Spike Lee. I thought Delroy Lindo from The Five Bloods was going to be an Oscar nominee. I saw that picture early in the cycle, early in the year, and I thought this may be Delroy Lindo's moments. In the end, he did not quite get there. So I would call that a snub. And I'm sorry, the other one you mentioned was
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
I love Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and obviously Chadwick Boseman is going to win Best Actor for that. Viola Davis was incredible. The supporting cast in that movie, guys like Glenn Turman and Coleman Domingo, all fantastic. A great ensemble. I thought that was going to be nominated for Best Picture, and in the end, did get the snub.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Chadwick Boseman, and I've been asking this to my fellow voters as well. I love him dearly. He's great. He's amazing. He's a pop culture phenomenon, really. But in any given year, do you think Chadwick Boseman deserves the Best Act? If he wins Best Actor, do you think he really truly deserves it, or is the Academy going to give it to him posthumously?
Well, they're definitely going to give it to him posthumously. I think, I don't know, in any given year, I do think he would be nominated, and I do think he would be the favorite to win. I think he is just amazing in that movie. And the movie really focuses on him and on his character. I mean, he's the centerpiece for Viola Davis and what she does, but he's the centerpiece of that ensemble. If there were no Chadwick Boseman in this category, I would say Riz Ahmed would be my favorite to win Best Actor. He is incredible in Sound of Metal. But I do think Chadwick Boseman's, I do think he will win it, and I do think he would win it in any ordinary year.
You're correct. You know what, though? My heart belongs to Anthony Hopkins for The Father. I mean, I love that movie, and I thought, you know, oh, here we go, another Anthony Hopkins movie, right? But I was so wrong. I mean, at this point of his career, he was still able to give a nuanced character, and he was still able to get lost in that character along with Olivia Colman. And it was just, that's first I was Riz Ahmed back in November, right? And then I saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I was like, Chadwick. And then I love Anthony Hopkins as well. So really, truthfully, I'll be so happy if there's a tie, between Hopkins and Chadwick Boseman. Which team are you? Of course, the front runners. We have Team Nomadland, Team Trial of the Chicago 7, Team Mank. Which team are you?
I am Team Nomadland. I thought Nomadland was just such an incredible story, telling really describing these people who live in this country sort of unseen. And this is a real phenomenon. This idea of nomads is real. They exist. They actually appear in the movie. I have a feeling that they're going to split, as they often do. I have a feeling people are going to look at the snub of Aaron Sorkin, which was a big snub also in the Best Director category. And they're going to say, All right, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland for Best Director and Trial of the Chicago 7 for Best Picture. They've been doing these splits for a while now where they sort of divide those two awards among two films. And I think those are going to be the two films this year.
Um, we've talked about Chadwick Boseman, Viola Davis, the Five Bloods, all of that. This is one of those first years where, I mean, Oscars is not so white, right?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, a lot of people of color nominated, which is great.
Nine actors of color. Yeah.
Wow. And you mentioned Chloe Zhao, a woman of color nominated in the Best Director category. Emerald Fennell, even the fact that a woman is nominated, not a woman of color, but Emerald Fennell nominated for a promising young woman in that category, shows that the Academy is becoming more diverse. And this is part of an ongoing effort that the Academy has had to make sure to include and invite more diverse voters into the club, such as it is, over the last few years. And I think that's why we're seeing more breakout performances for people of color in these acting categories. So I should mention Stephen Yeun, who I think is fantastic in Minari.
Yeah.
I loved Minari, a great story about an immigrant family, a Korean family who moves to the United States. Again, we're coming off the heels of Parasite winning everything last year. And I think Minari is one of the front runners, certainly one of the top couple of front runners for Best Picture this year.
I love Minari. I could identify with Alan S. Kim.
Yes, yes. That was you, huh?
Yeah, that was me when I was a little boy. Exactly. What about the Golden Globes? Speaking of diversity, the Golden Globes, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, they've been in a lot of trouble. Can they get their groove back?
Well, it's shocking to me that in year of our Lord 2021, that the Hollywood Foreign Press does not have a voter of color. That is amazing to me. Does not have an African-American voter anywhere. I'm sure it's something they're going to resolve. By the way, they're still giving awards. Chadwick Boseman won Best Actor at the Golden Globes. So there are still actors of color being recognized and people of color being recognized. Chloe Zhao won Best Director. It's just that you've got to have that more diverse voting base. And I have a feeling they're going to radically revise the membership of the Hollywood Foreign Press, even in time for next year.
The problem with that is they're so cliquish.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Foreign Press is so cliquish. If you're like me, I'm from the Philippines, right? But I also do some American reporting, but I can be considered, I could be a member.
Yes.
But I don't want to sound like, sour grapes. But that's the thing. That's what I noticed from the very beginning. I'm like, oh, let me try to be a Golden Globe Hollywood Foreign Press member. It is very, very hard. You have to be like a protege of the country, of whoever represents your country.
Oh, is that right? So you can't be a member?
I cannot be a member until I'm invited.
You would be a fantastic member of the Hollywood Foreign. I will lead that campaign, Manny, for you to become a member of the Hollywood Foreign Press. You would be a perfect voter. You see everything. You know your stuff. You would be an ideal member.
Oh, thank you. We'll get on that. Now, as a former theater owner, Mr. Steve, can you honestly say that you guys got out on time? I mean, before the pandemic devastated the movie theater industry?
Well, the timing was fortunate for us that we happened to leave the business and sell the business when we did. But it doesn't mean I don't feel for so many of my friends are independent theater owners, especially independent theater owners, who a lot of them just aren't going to reopen their theaters at all. I mean, a year would be devastating. I mean, if I put it in my terms, if we had owned Cinemas Palme D'Or going into this pandemic, I don't think we would have been around afterwards. So, it's the business is going to radically change. It's going to be a very different business model now, balancing streaming and release windows. It's going to be very, very tricky. And I hope that a lot of my friends who own independent theaters the big chains will be okay. The Regals and the Cinemarks and those guys will be okay. But it's those little guys that I worry about who bring a real diversity to the business.
How do you think Netflix will play into that, or streaming services?
Well, there are a lot of rumors that Netflix or Amazon Prime might look to buy one of the big chains, might look to buy AMC, or might look to buy one of, so then it makes perfect sense. I still think there needs to be a period between a movie's release and when it streams, whether that's a month, whether that's 2 months. The standard has always been 3 months, 90 days. Then it cut to 6 weeks. I think you've got to give theaters a fair shot to have a movie for at least a month before you start streaming it.
You cannot. There's still no comparison between watching a movie at home and watching a movie in theater. You agree with me on that?
I completely agree. I mean, there's something about going into that big dark room with a bunch of people you don't know and sort of collectively sharing that experience. We live in such a divided country where we disagree on so many things. But for just this brief amount of time, when you go to see a movie, you're all in it together. You're sharing a big communal experience. Really, movies, church, and sporting events are the three places we all go, and we sort of root for the same team. We're all in it together. I think those three things, and movie theaters are part of that, are like the three most important cultural touchstones we have that bring us together, that unite us.
You're exactly correct. I always say that for me, going to a movie theater is like going to church. Same thing with like the Oscars is like my Super Bowl.
It is my Super Bowl too. I love the Academy Awards, and yesterday morning, or when I woke up on Monday morning to see the nominations, that's always one of the most exciting days of the year.
Do you miss being a theater operator, Mr. Steve?
I do. And you know what I especially miss? I especially miss doing Q&As. Because we brought a lot of people out to Cinemas Palme D'Or. We had people like Viola Davis,
right?
Like Brie Larson, like really, really fascinating and interesting people. We had them out to the theaters to do Q&As. I miss our customers who were such devoted, loyal movie fans. And really missing the Q&As is one of the reasons I started my Culture Pop podcast, because I mean, they're really Q&As is what they are. They just happen to be on podcast as opposed to live in theaters. But I miss our great customers out there. We have such diehard fans and unbelievably knowledgeable movie fans. I definitely miss them.
I was one of the strong supporters of Cinemas Palme D'Or. I would always shoot all my stand-ups there just because I love the feel, you know?
Yeah, no, it was a great theater. It really was. And I know they're still operational over there, and I hope they're going to come through the pandemic, but it's changed a lot. They don't have the policy that we used to have. You know, we were strictly an art house movie theater, and we played stuff that otherwise might not have played in the Valley. And that was our niche. And we loved being in that niche because we got to connect with people who are really, really into movies.
That's right. Now, do you have anything to add?
No, I would just say, please subscribe to the Culture Pop podcast. I got all kinds of cool people on there. If you are an old fan of Cinemas Palme D'Or, if you were a fan, you saw me do Q&As. That's really what I'm doing in the podcast. You can just search Culture Pop on iTunes and Spotify and subscribe, man. I expect you to subscribe, Manny.
I'll be the first or maybe you have 5 million subscribers now. I'll be the 5,000,001.
And I will make sure that I can do whatever I can to get you into the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Good luck on everything, and let me know if you go back to theater business, because I'll be there again.
I absolutely will, Manny. Thanks a lot. Great catching up, man.
Thank you so much. We'll talk Oscars in April and see if your predictions are true.
All right, awesome.
And by the way, I just remembered. Thomas Vinterberg, another round. That's what we've forgotten.
That's what it is. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It sounds fascinating.
We're both getting old.
Yeah, we are.